Hello! In today's episode of Bug Bounty Reports Explained, you will learn how critical flaw in LastPass made it possible to steal all your credentials from there. The write-up was originally published on Detectify's blog by Matthias Carlson, co-founder of the company. And I'm happy to announce that Detectify is actually a sponsor of today's video. It's a company which builds a scanner where the crowd of hackers creates exploits. They collaborate with the best specialists in the world to do the research on actively exploited vulnerabilities. This way, they find much more sophisticated bugs than just OWASP Top 10 or vulnerable libraries. Sometimes it finds things you didn't even think were possible. Start a 2-week trial at detectify.com/bbre and see what it finds on your website. Let's start the explanation. LastPass is a password manager. It's a software used for storing your credentials to different websites. Main benefit from using any password manager is that you only need to remember one really strong password, and then hundreds of other ones are unique, securely auto-generated, and you don't need to know them. Among others, LastPass works as a browser extension. By default, it has autofill functionality turned on, so if you are on website example.com and there is a login panel, then LastPass will automatically fill in your credentials to that website. So if you are on any website, the extension will take that domain and see in the database if you have any credentials saved for this domain. This comparison is absolutely crucial. If you are able to bypass this, you could trick LastPass into thinking that you are on victim.com domain when you are on attacker.com, and then you could embed your own login panel and LastPass would automatically fill in credentials to victim.com website. We know that parsing URLs is really hard. Vulnerabilities in this functionality happen over and over again, and this will not change anytime soon. It's because not every URL looks like this. It can also contain a port, some parameters, even more parameters, a login, and maybe even a password. @ in the URL separates the credentials part from the host. This is not often used in today's websites, but the extension must handle this case. We will take a closer look into how it dealt with multiple @. These two lines were responsible for that. First, the regex was used on the URL. Let's use a tool called debugx to see what it extracts. First, it matches the protocol. Then there is anything besides the *. Next, there is / itself, and after that there's anything 0 or more times. Next, there's an @. In simple words, if you would have an @ in the path part of your URL, it would match everything up to this @. This would split such URL into two parts. Later, they concatenated both of them, but the first part was not modified, and the second part had all @ URL encoded. So in even simpler words, they URL encoded all @ in the path part of the address. Why was that? Because if they didn't take those steps, then the URL-parsing function would think that this URL with two @ is from domain victim.com, and everything before it would be treated as the login. This could be used to trick LastPass into thinking that we are on different domain than we actually are, but thanks to those two lines, this attack was not possible. However, this code didn't handle the case with two @ in the path part. Because the regex would match everything up to the last @ and it would split the URL there. So everything before it would not be modified, including the first @, only the last one would be URL encoded. This made the LastPass extension think that it is on victim.com domain while it was on attacker.com, and if the attacker would embed the login panel on this website, then LastPass extension would automatically fill in the credentials for victim.com and attacker would send those credentials to his server and take over victim's account. In the real exploit, you would create tens or hundreds of websites with paths like @facebook.com, @gmail.com, @twitter.com, and so on. They could be opened, for example, in iframes or even in new tabs. Once the victim would visit your website, all those credentials would be compromised. Usually, attacks that require user interaction are considered maximum medium risk level, but not this one. Considering the functionality of Password Manager, the risk here is definitely higher. The way LastPass extension works now is that it does this operation in recursive fashion until there are no more @ in the path part of the URL. But to be honest, looking at this strange code and edgy regexes, I still have the feeling that there are more bugs to be found here. But there is one more thing that I'd like to touch on in this video. If you are not sure if using Password Manager is safe, please don't treat this video as a proof that it's unsafe. There are bugs in all software that we use, just some companies let us know about them and others don't. Of course, there is some risk involved in using Password Manager, especially one sensed in the cloud. But in my opinion, the risk is still much smaller than reusing same passwords or using weak ones. The reward for this vulnerability was $1,000, and you could think it's not much, but at the time of reporting this, LastPass did not have a bug bounty program at all, so it was still a nice surprise for the bug hunter. Anyway, if you learned something new today, leave a like under this video. Also, if you are not subscribed to the newsletter, you are missing out a lot. Sign up using the link in the description. For now, thank you for watching and goodbye.